And welcome back to the MAAC Esports Championship weekend at the Showboat in Atlantic City. Of course, this is presented by the Riot Scholastic Academic Association, bringing to you guys this playoff. And of course, what all of these teams are fighting for is the one chance for a representative of MAAC to make it into the LoL Championships. And of course, I'm John J. Turbo, joined alongside Devin, the worst cast. And we've got the big dog that we have talked about all weekend, all season. It is Marist here. Finally on stage.
It's kind of that boogeyman that just overlays every other match, right? You're just like, yeah, this match is cool. Could they beat Marist? It's like, can they do Marist? Can they beat Marist? Like, can they do anything against Marist? Like, it's always this thing. It's like, I'm talking about Manhattan. It feels like every time I cast Manhattan, the show's like, well, how do they do against Marist? You know, like, how can we see how good they are against Marist? Like, I don't know. It's kind of this. We always compare everything to the top because that's what these teams are wanting to be, right? They want to be that top spot. And it just so happens when your top spot is so dominant, they have not dropped a single map in a format where you can easily drop maps to other teams if you just kind of start like letting off the gas pedal like Manhattan did against Niagara earlier in the season. That can happen. And it's just been, Marist has been so consistent with it that we have not seen a single chink in the armor so far. And I don't expect one to show up now when it's the most important for them, right? They've been so consistent the entire time, even when it like the matches like don't like quote unquote don't matter or very little importance. They still play fantastic game, very clean game, and on a LAN environment, an important playoff bracket. I don't expect them to develop any weaknesses.
Yeah, definitely. As we already see, Manhattan, after taking that series against Fairfield, have advanced. And honestly, you know Manhattan is going to be watching this series if you are Marist. And Marist, we've been talking about how strong they are and how they are likely to take this in a pretty clean sweep. Of course, Niagara, they could pull out something crazy. They could convert their early game that they are known for being able to build against even some of the best teams in this conference. But if I'm Marist here, I want to be shutting these games down as quickly as possible. Do not give Manhattan any extra information. Create a game state that is incredibly dominant, that your opponents can't gain anything extra out of watching this series. Now, while that does sound dire for Niagara, just for Marist trying to play to a stomp, if you're thinking about this in a tournament setting, where you are in the same building as your opponents, you want to make sure that you are giving as little away as possible, because again, there is one member who is going to represent MAAC in the greater LoL playoffs, and Marist wants to be in.
Marist is looking to be it right now, and then we kind of compare how does this conference look to other conferences. I think as a general like overall conferencing, a lot of people don't rate a lot of the teams in MAAC very highly, but obviously Marist and Manhattan I think are the two strongest and could definitely be standouts here, and kind of reverse that opinion from other people in other conferences. So it'll be interesting to see how the representative that does get out does represent this conference in against other really strong like teams. Like there's a lot of really good teams in CLOL right now, so it'll be interesting to see when that does happen. But of course that's tomorrow, and that's getting ahead of ourselves. So again, looking at this match, I think it's kind of hard to talk about a lot of things because of how dominant Marist has been. It's just reiterating the same thing over and over. So let's talk about Niagara. A little bit of change of pace right now. We haven't mentioned them much. I think we've a lot of people have written them off, and it's not just general people. It's like a lot of people. I think the vast majority of people have kind of written it off as it's a Marist versus Manhattan show tomorrow. But Niagara's early game has never been bad. I've never looked at them and said, the early game is very bad. I think they come into the same issue that Fairfield has. It's the mid-game calling and mid-game team fighting that becomes their detriment, and they just swing a game so far in the other direction because of mistakes made in that mid-game that it becomes unrecoverable. So, but the early game is generally pretty decent.
Yeah. Their early game is pretty decent. I mean, yesterday, I think Shinkari put it perfectly when we were watching the Niagara versus Ryder series. While it wasn't consequential, Niagara did still get a 2-0. They did still pick up those two games. But it was decision paralysis, where they are faced with a few different options, and they will stutter for about 10 seconds, as opposed to already knowing what they're going to do. And sometimes that 10 seconds compounds, or that prevents a timing on maybe a respawn, or maybe it means that you'll lose your ward coverage, or you won't get to the objective fast enough before your opponent does to set up those wards. All of those little details add up, and it feels like if Niagara can be a little more decisive, they can find an early game advantage. Maybe there's a way that they can make these games more competitive than so many are thinking that it will be, thinking that it'll just be a complete blowout.
Yeah, and I think decision paralysis is what we saw earlier from Fairfield as well. I like to compare those teams a lot. The 3rd and 4th seed have gone back and forth a lot in terms of in their play, and I think it's kind of been the same issues that plague them. I think they're very similar teams, except for the fact that there are some slight differences in how they want to draft, but a lot of the time the same issues always pop up for those two teams. It's decision paralysis in the mid game. We saw it before, the Baron call from Fairfield in that first game, where they sit around Dragon like, okay, don't really want to go for Dragon, so we're going to run over to Baron, but it's already 20 seconds too late. They already have Dragon, and we just lose the game off of it. It's those kind of decisions that they happen, and they just lose games. That's just how you lose games right there, is with those delayed decision making around key objectives, because you got to be faster than that. League of Legends, in terms of a lot of other games, it's pretty slow, but there are just some moments where you have to make snap decisions, and if they aren't getting made, you are going to fall behind teams like Manhattan, like Marist, who are going to make those snap decisions way faster and way cleaner than you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to push back, I guess, a little bit. Well, yes, League of Legends as a game is slower than, let's say, Rocket League, where you have these 5-minute games that are incredibly fast-paced. You still have to be constantly thinking about and making decisions in the same way that you do in those faster paced games. You know, in Overwatch, it's constantly tracking your opponent's abilities, positioning, ultimate economy, and all these other aspects. You have to do the exact same thing in League, but you're worrying about a much larger map with so many additional factors, like neutral objectives, like tower pressure, like tower plates, like minions, like all of these different little factors, and you have to make a decision for every single one of them. And if you're faltering on whether or not to move a certain direction on the map, or whether or not to prioritize a given objective, that just continues to add up and add up for how many decisions a team has to make in the course of a game.
Yeah, and I guess looking towards, I think we do have sides coming in. It's going to be Marist on your red side, Niagara on your blue side. Niagara's going to get first pick. I want if that's going to change like bans. So, for example, if you don't want to give over Zeri, you ban on red side. I mean, Zeri is really crazy. Nerf did come through. I'm not sure how big the nerf was, is kind of the honest. There was so many changes that I'm not sure how big the nerfs were, but we've already received changes like that before, and it did nothing to that character, basically. The character is still very crazy and broken. So I don't know if this second round of changes is enough to really remove the power from that champion, because just the baseline idea of how Zeri wants to operate is overwhelming, and kind of it's like very hard to lock down a Zeri. And you've seen the clips of like it's a Zeri in a 1v4 and they get away and they start just going like, okay, I'm gonna turn around and start poking you, and you guys try to walk at me, but I'm already 2 billion units away, right? And then I come back in and it feels like even in a 1v4 the Zeri wins, because the Zeri's just gonna shoot you from so far away and going to be zipping in and out. So unless that has been like fundamentally changed, or that is just no longer you do enough damage to warrant being scared of the Zeri, that's the only two ways that champion is not going to be seeing play.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it is sort of this space where Zeri also does have a pretty high mechanical ceiling, and I think right now when it comes to what you want to play in this do or die space, you want to fall back on comfort. You want to go back to those picks that you understand, that you know how to play together with. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Niagara maybe just wants to go for something with a decent early game and the ability to transition into front to back team fighting. So maybe just go like a J4, and then you have an Ashe in the bot lane, and you give yourself just a standard mage in the mid lane and some bruiser up top. If you give yourself that just core framework to build out of, I wouldn't be surprised if Niagara can maybe find a way to extend this game, not make it just a complete blowout, find opportunities to put Marist to the test. And Marist on the other side, if they want to end these games really, really quickly, just be aggressive. Pick like Lee Sin in the jungle and just jump on them. Take something in the mid lane that can run you down early. Maybe throw in a Tristana or something. I know she's not that great right now, but give you something that can go crazy in the bot lane with a strong level 2. I mean, Lucian was just recently touched up, so maybe that could give him the little push he needed to come back to relevance. You know, there's so many options, I think, that are available to both of these teams that stay comfortable while not, you know, just giving the game away.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, that does make sense. A lot of the time, standard play, very simple in terms of you probably scrimmed it the most. in terms of how it happens. So it's less chances that you've been scrimming other styles of like poke surrounding styles or these split engage comps that come out, and we're gonna end up seeing how that does evolve in terms of the game. We should be getting in soon, hopefully, into lobby and into draft. That'll be interesting to see kind of where the draft goes just from ban phase. I kind of want to see who's getting targeted on what side, because, and I want you to I kind of want to get your input on this, because I don't think there's any one single person you can actually ban out on Marist like you can like Grifter, right? Like Grifter's like, you're banning out Grifter, right? But I cannot think of a single thing on Marist that like, I'm banning that person out because they're just so much better than everyone else. Everyone on that team is so good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It feels like whenever they need to transition their compositional identity, they know how to do that. And the strength of Marist doesn't, in my opinion, come from their individual players. While of course they do have, I think, one of the highest, if not the highest average rank in the conference, it comes from their ability to work together and understand their role in the greater team composition. And that is something that can be very, very difficult for newer players or younger players, or just players who aren't as experienced and competitive, to understand, work through, and apply towards these matches. Where if you are, this like yesterday, we saw llamas from Niagara on these two hyper tanks, and they understood my job is to make sure that the split pushers in the top side can't do anything. My job is to make sure that my carries are safe, and they just sat there. And that was a good example of llamas understanding their role, but I wasn't seeing the same bits, from Izzy, from Hypno, from Ninjax all of the time. Whereas on the other side, you have Randomain, who has swapped up their jungle options. You've seen Cobrigado, and they have been able to play carry and support. There is just these options. Nate the Great has swapped from Enchanter to Engage, and the fact that you have that depth goes such a long way at not only how your team works together, but how you can counter out opposing strategies, as we're seeing these first few bans. Jinx and Thresh taken away from Niagara. There's the Zeri, GP, and Olaf taken away from Marist.
Gonna be Thresh and Jinx taken off at the same time. Don't want like a Thresh Aphelios getting through. Obviously being on the blue side, they have first pick of ADC. They go for the Sivir. Going to be going for some wave clear here. That's a Yuumi going to get picked up. Might be going along with an Aphelios and Ezreal, something like that. No, could be going and looking over for the Vlad. That's actually a flex pick and go mid or top. So I wonder kind of what that's going to be. It's going to be a Gwen. That can go mid, top jungle. Typically going to be top right now. Just going to hit with a big nerf, actually. So we'll end up seeing how Gwen ends up operating. Typically right now, you're not seeing her as a blind pick. You're seeing her as a counter pick or into certain matchups, because as a blind pick, there are now exploitable features of the Gwen.
Yeah, I mean, I am going to say, though, if Croissant Bandit was watching Niagara's games yesterday, Llamas was always going onto these massive tanks, and Gwen, even despite the nerfs, is still going to have true damage and is still going to shred through your HP bar if you are that, hyper tank. So I think that this is still a pretty solid pick. The Lux getting picked up as that flex. And one thing I'm going to say, I really like Izzy Sweetheart picking up this Sivir, because yesterday we saw them on Jinx, and we saw them, I can't remember their second champion, I think it was Jhin, but it was on these more carry focused champions, and they were never really able to find the space to succeed. Whereas on Sivir, to be useful, all you need to be able to do is clear waves and poke out your opponents, because I'm assuming this is going to be a lethality build.
Yeah, and now what do we see? Do we pivot to a tanky mid laner, right? Galio, always a fun one, because that's going to be like the way to get into the Sivir. If everyone is squishier, you can have a hard time trying to match the range of this Lux with that, or the Lux trying to match the range of the Sivir there, opting in for kind of an engage from the Leona. And like Lux Aphelios is an okay lane. If that was a Caitlyn, maybe, but I mean, Aphelios by themselves is really good, and then Lux by themselves can pair with other bot laners like an Ashe, like a Caitlyn, but I think together they are a little bit under threat, especially from a Sivir Leona lane. Going to take away that Trundle, because I assume they're going to want to be drafting a little bit more tanky, maybe from the jungle position as well, and already that Ornn is a juicy target for a Trundle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't want random main just taking llamas completely out the game by just pressing subjugate, and suddenly this Ornn is made out of feathers as opposed to molten rock and lava. So trying to take away those tools, I like that. But one thing I also like from Marist's draft is, again, this Lux is a flex pick, and it means that Niagara, if they choose to ban supports, maybe you throw this Lux mid. If you start banning mid laners, throw this Lux support, and then you're not pinching either pool all that effectively.
Yeah. And now we're going to the second round. Zach going to be getting picked up here. A lot of playmaking on Zach, but now you're going to kind of see, what does our mid lane look like, right? What does our, is it a Victor? Is it a Corki? Is it a Orianna, Syndra, that kind of stuff? And right then you're like, is that too much magic damage? You only have 180 threat and Aphelios. This one's going to be very tanky. I mean, what do we kind of do here? Like, it could be a Yone, could be a Yasuo maybe, but that's going to be a Vex in response. Pretty decent into both of those champions. So I think Marist have actually put themselves in a quite poor spot in terms of this draft. I don't know how they're going to round this one out.
I mean, I am going to say, I feel like Aphelios does just bring so much damage to the table that if he does go Kraken Slayer, that this Ornn really isn't going to be able to hold up. Maybe you don't even need to go Kraken Slayer. If you get a good ultimate, then you can just one-shot that Sivir and the Vex effectively. There's that Yone you were talking about going over to Cobra. It's going to help fill in some of that damage. I mean, you're an absolute prophet. This is why they pay you the big bucks.
That's why I'm the analyst. Yeah.
That's why you're the analyst, and I'm just the talking head. But one thing I do like about Niagara's comp is this Nocturne, because the Aphelios can get out of control very, very easily. And if you have this Nocturne as that dive threat for Laj Wheels and Nate the Great, it becomes a lot harder to structure your fights if you are Marist.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see, particularly how this bot lane ends up playing out. It's pretty volatile. I'm going to say it's pretty volatile. There's kill pressure from both sides. Leona engaged with Sivir following up. Like, you poke down with Sivir, and then you engage with Leona. Only problem I could see if you're trying to poke down with Sivir, watching Leona's health bar. Stay away from the shiny lights. Stay away from them. They're not good for you. They will hurt, and you need to be full HP or close to full HP when you're going in. So, I mean, even if you're taking Resolve, which you normally do because of Aftershock, I mean, if people going Glacial now, I think in a lot of ways Aftershock helps you a lot if you're going into a situation where you're going to get hit a lot, because that's what Aftershock works. It gives you a bunch of resistances. I mean, do you remember when everyone used to be running Aftershock because that rune was so broken? Like, you'd have Aftershock Lysandra and all that kind of stuff, and it was just so broken. They nerfed it a bunch. It's still good, but then Glacial got changed. I don't know. It's a whole mess with Aftershock, man. It's like, is it good? Is it bad? I think it's pretty decent in most situations, but then it's like, do we need Glacial? I think here it's not bad because there's no mobility, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Aftershock is in the place it's supposed to be, where you run it on Nautilus and Leona and sometimes
Galio.
Thresh, even though you're mostly going Guardian, you throw it onto Galio. But that's about it. You know, if you're in the top lane, you have CC, you're still probably going to go Grasp instead. If you're in the mid lane, you'll go Comet or some other more offensive option.
Predator's making its big way
here. Predator, absolutely. You know, you have all of those better options. I really did not like it when I was seeing a Lysandra become super tanky after jumping into the middle of my pack line. That was always, you know, a little bothersome.
And then deal 20 billion damage with that Aftershock, right?
Yeah, and then
after
deal 1 million damage.
And it's like I hit with like a Syndra Q, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? What do I do? What's happening? It's always fun. Always a fun time to reminisce. Insane, but for you maybe, but I didn't play it. I played ADC. I had a horrible time with it. I had a horrible time.
And I have no fond memories. But again, you know, going to this draft, because there is no Lysandra, there is no Aftershock mid laners, Niagara has given themselves options and ways to play this game out that is not just going to get ran down by Marist. And Marist, their composition to me feels a little bit ego, if that makes any sense. Like, there's some ego behind it. Going for really big carries on the top side. You've got this Yone that can pop off in the mid lane. You have this Aphelios that needs to get rolling, but if these guys start getting shut down, if this Nocturne is able to dive that Aphelios at level 6, if this Sivir is preventing Yone from ever having the space to step forward, then maybe there's a world that Niagara can make this work if they can stay even, if not get ahead in the early game, but that is still going to require them to get ahead. And we've seen how Marist, regardless of their composition, regardless of their options, they still always find a way to get a lead.
Yep. I mean, we kind of, you can always say that against teams, and you, even in pro play, you're like, oh, this draft is so bad, or this draft is so good, and whatnot, and then it doesn't happen because early game goes a completely different way. And the biggest way to do that is just like, I think invading is one of the worst things for you if you want to improve as a player in terms of like doing it every single game, because if an invade goes good or bad, it just so fundamentally changes how the game is going to go from then on, right? So like you can have a level 1 invade happen to you and the game is never normal again, and that is just not like, that's not how you improve. But if you want to get a 1-up on an opponent, you just invade them. The game is completely different from there. Hopefully invade goes well, because if it doesn't go well, you lose the game. But hey, you know, it's risk versus reward. It's are we gonna win the game if we don't invade? That kind of stuff. I don't know. They have a pretty good draft. Pretty solid draft. I think there's some changes I would make to it, particularly in jungle. But it's still not bad. But it's like, can we play standard against Marist and win? There's some question marks around that, right?
Yeah, there are. And I mean, your point about invades, I used to be a 3-camp Warwick invade player in gold, and people hated me every single game because I would show up, I would wait until you walked into your red buff, and I would get a kill, win the game. And that's just how it would go. The game is completely changed. But then if I get counter-rotated, I get collapsed on, I would lose the game. Because,
you are a 50-50 player.
It completely flips it. It's a coin flip. It's a coin flip. And, I mean, I'm going to say my main game, at least to play sometimes, is Hearthstone, so you can already say I'm an RNGesus freak. But that's not what we're worrying about here. We have got Marist. We've been talking about them all weekend, all season, and they're finally on stage up against the underdogs of Niagara, looking to prove themselves.
Here comes the 5-point. So you want you to go mid. There's the 5-point from both squads. Look, we're a little matching right there. What's not matching, this hurts me. I hate this about League of Legends client, and this is the problem. It's like a 10-year-old client hasn't changed. Nate the Great's name, because it's so long, has actually pushed the portrait to the right of everything else. And now that I've noticed that, and now you've noticed that, and it will bother you the rest of the time. So have fun with that, everyone. Because it has bothered me forever, and now it will bother you.
See, this is the one thing I liked about us not having a ton of Marist games during the regular season, is that we didn't get this offset client. But this is what we're. It's not nice. This is the world we live in.
Why does Riot do that? Why does it push it to the right instead of just like leaving the name to? I don't get that. I don't get that, Riot. Why does that? Me neither.
I don't understand either. I don't understand how you're the biggest esport in the world and your esports spectator client just breaks sometimes. You know.
Yeah. This game is only the biggest esport in the world, and 10 years old, and whatever. But okay, it's fine. It's not like Wild Rift.
12 years old.
I keep forgetting. It's like I keep thinking I'm still stuck in season 10. I'm sorry. I'm stuck in like season 8 through 9 and 10. I'm like, when like I really started falling off was like 10 in terms of like set came out, and I was like, God, this champion is broken and everything else like that. But, no, we're still here. We're still pulling through. Oh my! I mean, it feels like so little ago. It was like, guys, we're announcing all these other games we're making, and now it's like some of them are coming out. The new fighting game's coming out soon too. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we have, of course, the precise gunplay of Valorant that we have seen.
Yeah, precise gunplay.
If you are very precise gunplay, and we might see some precise gunplay this game. Lodge wheels on that Ophelia, so you got to be pretty precise on that one. As looking at this early game. Nothing too crazy. Honestly, everyone's being pretty even. Of course, the Gwen is going to be ahead on the top side. The Lux lane is going to hit level 2 first. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing out of the ordinary indeed. Everything pretty standard from here. And I want to kind of see how jungle interactions do go. Here's the first one.
Yeah, Ninjax getting slapped in by the Zac, although Hypno is here, and now Rando main quite low. Might be forced to flash as will have enough move speed, but nice counter gank out of Hypno. I like these responses. I like this proactivity. And now Niagara, they've got an inkling of where Rando main is going to be headed, and they can start to track that jungler.
They can start to track it, and tracking is very important. They actually know where both junglers are. They're going to meet up at that top side of the map in that Scuttle Crab. I wonder if Zac runs through right now. Both of them delayed their camps until then, so they just now hit 3. It's actually going to be a regank on mid, potentially. Not sure why the Zac... I mean, Zac solo clear on Scuttle isn't great because you break the shield with E and then you have no escape and then it's like rough. But still, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. The fact that it's almost 4 minutes now and not a single lift shuttle has been taken is pretty unusual.
Yeah, it is pretty unusual, as we do have Ninjax actually with a very, very early roam. Crazy Monkey finds the root. There's the lockdown. There's the stun. There's the fear. There's the damage. It should be enough. The first blood actually goes to Nate the Great, and actually not enough damage. Roswell stays alive. Disaster for Niagara.
Yo, they slept on the Lux damage. That's a rough.
Fizzy, you had heal.
Yo, sometimes you just forget, okay? Sometimes you forget that you're dying. Maybe not looking completely at their character, was looking at the fellows instead. And this is the part where Gwen, you think you got her, but you really don't. You don't got this Gwen, you know? And the thing is, the Gwen was half lower than half HP. Just all they need to do is start hitting the minion wave with their Q and their passive, obviously, the needlework. And I don't believe that's a passive name, but, you know, I am... New champions, sometimes names are hard to follow. It is, that's the passive.
There's a lot of names. 159 champions.
They almost just yo, it is crazy. Look at that. They almost just killed Ninjax right there. Did that look like a kill trade? No, but it was.
That should have been an. If there was an ignite there, that's probably a kill because you get the ignite plus
that
one more
actually was
auto.
a kill angle. Oh my god. Yon.
It's the Wind Brothers always being a problem. Croissant Bandit not going to be just escaping with his life. Might go try and steal from a French bakery. We'll see. But is just farming up and farming away.
No, I don't think it's like the Croissant Bandit of like stealing like the really high level croissants, like the really fancy ones. I think it's the one that goes to Walmart and like steals their croissants, you know, like the
goes to Walmart.
Walmart
I'm
croissants,
imagining
you know, like
a hamburger, but it's just Croissant Bandit playing Gwen. So it's like a Gwen with a Hamburglar cosplay. That's what I'm imagining.
There's a mid gank. It's very funny.
There is a mid gank. Actually, like. I was gonna say perfect fear cancel. Ninjax able to stay alive as again the ignite does not come down from Cobra, and somehow Ninjax stays alive. Scuttle on the bot side picked up by Large Wheels and Nate the Great, as this is pretty much what we expected, about a 1k gold lead primarily through CS, as well as of course that first blood going over to the Lux.
I think it's mostly just through now the Gwen getting the solo kill. Another thing, Gwen to Ornn. Good matchup for Gwen. Bad matchup for Ornn. I think it's like the two horsemen of the apocalypse. So an Ornn matchup is like Mordekaiser and Gwen because it's magic damage and it's harder to stack MR than it is to stack armor because there's a lot less like amazing MR items, right? Like you have some great tank like armor items like Bramble Vest and Thorn Melter kind of put on. But you don't really have that for MR. It's like Spirit Visage you don't really want on Ornn. Maybe a Force of Nature, but it's like, do I really need that movement speed? Then it's like, it's so rough. But yeah. So
yeah, it's like Abyssal, but you want that like. Yeah, it's like the only item that I really like building on Ornn is Abyssal in the late game when I have an AP carry. So
even that
way
doesn't feel great.
It's like, it doesn't feel great, but it feels better than Spirit or Force of Nature for sure.
Yeah. That's why I say there's two champions are like horsemen of the apocalypse because like one just doesn't like those items, and it's those two champions that are life stealing off of you, off your health, doing like max health damage, and they're also like life stealing off that max health damage, and you're just sitting there just like I can't kill you, I'm just getting beat up, and Llamas is just kind of like yeah.
For tanks, there's just no good anti-magic Grievous Wounds items because you go Bramble, you're not getting efficient stats. If you go for a damage item, you don't want to be building damage on these characters.
Yeah, how bad does that feel, right? You know, like look at this Bramble Vest, and you're like, man, all this armor just to get hit by 2 billion true damage and 80% magic damage. You know, it's like, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing? Like, I really want MR boots here, but then she's gonna heal. It's just like, it's rough for an Ornn. That's why I say like, I don't know why they picked Ornn into Gwen. Like, I don't get that. Like, I've never seen that matchup ever go well for the Ornn.
Yeah, I would have rather seen
maybe I'm just bad.
No, it's not a great matchup for Ornn. Honestly, if you want to pick a tank, I would, and one that Llamas is comfortable on, I'd honestly rather see the Scion, because then at the very least, you do have dueling potential. Because if you go down, you get supercharged, you can pick up a little AD or something like that, and you'll do all right. As Hypno may be looking for just a crazy Q steal, they were actually looking to combine the Boomerang Blade with that Nocturne, and Llamas getting solo killed once again by Croissant Bandit. and it's just very, very rough upstairs. And the trouble is, your Ornn is still going to be relevant, but this Gwen is going to be a monster.
Gwen is immune, and the Sivir will love that. I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen. The Sivir's going to go into a fight pretty strong. They're just going to try and do it. Bot lane is going to get engaged on here, though.
Yeah, Lajmiel's already down, and this is why I liked the Nocturne. You have the capacity to do things like this. Pair it up alongside the Vex, turn off the lights, and get rid of Lajmiel's, get rid of Nate the Great, and you've got a fighting chance at taking a fight. You know, like, you have a shot. But now, with Croissant Bandit being as enabled as they are, I am concerned about whether that's going to be enough.
I'm also quite concerned. Who deals with Gwen in this game? No one really can stop it. They're going to get into your team, start beating you up. You have a lot of melee targets or melee range targets. Vex plays melee range after the ult engage comes in. They are just a melee range champion at that point until they can kind of walk away. But yeah, the only one that's really playing at a distance is going to be Izzy. And is he going to put out enough damage, especially if Gwen has the Shroud of the Hollow Mist up? Like, you just don't do anything here with the Sivir. Like, your poke is not going to matter that much, especially when you have characters like Yone and Zac who are going to be going past you and get poke. Like, they're not going to get affected as much if they play it properly, and there should be a dive.
Yeah, this is a dive, and the E canceled away, and not even time for the call of the Forge God. That was a beautiful CC chain, and just so much damage coming down. Hypno trying to respond to this kill, but honestly, I don't even know if you win this with Crazy Monkey. They're trying to layer the CC, and here's Ninjax, does get the fear, and that it should be the kill onto the Gwen. So at the very least, it is answered, but plates go the way of Randomain with that Herald drop.
And I think that's one of the things that like we see from Marist that I don't think of anyone else in the MAAC conference does that. No one else goes for tower dives, like coordinated, good mid jungle top tower dives. So this doesn't happen. Still have the E up there, so it's just gonna get some mana for their troubles. -1 ult, if I laugh. But yeah, I mean that's like something you don't see from any other team. That's only Marist does it. Like that's the level Marist is at, where that is pretty common in high elo, like high elo pro play, but. And MAAC in particular, that is just something that's only Marist does.
Yeah, it is really, you know, Marist are the ones who have that coordination, they have that team play, and it is very good to see as Sivir ulti did get dropped. Actually, Shadow gets locked down by Ninjax, and this will be a kill on Nate the Great. Crazy Monkey has to be the one to pick it up as the auto from Izzy wasn't quite enough. I think that they were trying to hand it off to Izzy, but just not enough damage. As I will say, Niagara, they are shutting down this bot lane from over-aggressing, and I like it. They are finding ways back in. I think the trouble is just that 2 of those kills went onto your Leona.
Yeah, that's a bit rough, especially when you have a lethality Sivir that's going to be trying to come online as soon as possible. That's the biggest thing about lethality. You want the game to go shorter. Because lethality ends up just generally it's like I think with assassins a lot of time in terms of like AD assassins, they tend to fall off, quote unquote, because by the end game you have stats on particular squishy carries that are typically squishy carries that are going to have stats that mitigate the lethality, like a GA or something. Yeah,
and once you have those options like the Zhonya's, like the GA, your life just becomes much more difficult if you are that AD assassin, if you are someone trying to dive into the back line, as we're seeing Crazy Monkey potentially just getting caught out here by Nate, Randomain, and Cobra, and while Ninjax is trying to fear some away, Crazy Monkey is instead just leading them on a bit of a chase down the river, and Cobra will pick up that kill. Fortunately, not a shutdown, but still another chunk of gold heading into this Yone's pocket.
And Yone is the champion that I try the most on broadcast to not have a rant about, because I've made my opinions on Yone quite clear on casts before, not only for specifically college casts, but other casts as well. Like, this champion, not okay, but we will leave it at that, as the 40 CS lead is going to gap in here for Cobra GTO. Am I crazy?
I don't know. I sometimes flip between it, as sometimes
is it Cobra Gato, like Cobra Cat, you know?
Like, I was thinking maybe
it
could be Cobra Gato. Could go for that one. Kind of funny. I like it. Yeah. But regardless, you can always just fall back. Old reliable is Cobra taking state of the game.
Yeah.
Marist are about 2K and some change ahead in the early game, but honestly, I think with the way that this matchup was described and the way it's been described, this is not necessarily what we're expecting. This isn't some complete blowout. This is Niagara putting up a fight with plays like this, where Cobra is shut down in the tower. Now Hypno is gonna go down, but this should be a trade. Oh no, misses the timing, and Ninjax loses an amazing opportunity, and it turns into a double kill. I was so excited. I thought that Niagara had found their opening, found the way to get this big old bounty off of the Exiled. But instead, or the Forgotten, not the Exiled. But still,
wow, you messed up the brothers' nicknames? That's crazy.
I did mess up the brothers.
Man, Caster's messing up these random lore details. That's so sad. What is that? What's up with that, huh?
It's because it was Forgotten.
Oh, that's true. But yeah, no, I was going to say that Kova played that really well. Actually, really well played. The ult out into the E to try and create a lot of space between themselves and the Vex and the Nocturne. Ends up getting the kill on Nocturne because they overextend for the kill, thinking they have it, not understanding the shield on the W is going to keep them alive. And then obviously they come back and it's random main with the perfect timing on that Zac ult to come in and stop that Vex from following up. That allows Cobra to get the W off again, get that life steal going because they do have those Showboat or the components of the Showboat up. And now the game seems quite doomed when you have a 3-1 Gwen and a 3-0 Yone. It might just be a release date difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, it could be, but it really is just Niagara. They showed us that they are thinking and developing answers. It's just been their execution has been there's just been tight, tiny margins that they have been missing. You know, on the bot side, Nate the Great finding that first blood instead of Niagara being able to pick it up on Olage wheels. In the mid lane, that failed near dive that we saw from Ninjax and Hypno, almost beautiful. They just couldn't quite layer the fears. And in the top side, Llama's been doing what it can. You know, Crazy Monkey has been trying to roam and impact the map. It feels like they're just a little too slow. But honestly, I'm going to say, this is not the Niagara we saw at the start of the season.
Yeah, I would say Niagara. At least I'm kind of happy with how they've been playing, particularly near Ninjax, because they have been so willing to get down and start fighting in bot lane. Right? They've been willing to try and put this bot lane behind. I think the one lane that they have not been super far behind in this entire time, and it's really allowed them to maybe have some way back into the game. Of course, it's unfortunate how those kills went down onto Leona, or if it went onto the Nocturne, the Vex, or even this Sivir, like. Much better. And now Nocturne is going to be very scared when the Fnatic Death Bush actually finds a kill right now. Hypno's going to walk in. Goodbye, Hypno.
Yeah, Hypno is just going to go down. Victim to the Death Brush as Cobra is unstoppable. The gold lead breaks open to about 6k, and with Herald in hand, Dragon spawning in 2.5 minutes as Marist has had complete control over those neutrals. I feel like we are one fight or one objective away from Marist completely running away with this one.
Yeah, definitely on their way to running away with it, and it's kind of an expectation. I've been really surprised with Niagara so far. I mean, I always said the early game was decent. It's always been that way, but they've been really trying to step up the tempo of the play. It just so happens that Croissant Bandit, when you have a bunch of solo kills going down in the mid and top lane, it's really hard to execute these strategies because you're just behind in gold, tempo, CS, whatever it might be. And a Yone with double buffs is a scary sight indeed.
It's a scary sight, but I think what's scarier is the 156 CS with
700 gold bounty though. Advantage. Come on.
But that's 2.5 levels over Ninjax. That is just such a massive experience lead. And those are the kinds of points where, you know, Ninjax had to sacrifice some of that experience to go bot lane and try and make some of these scrappy plays and to try and dive in that mid lane. But it was just too little at certain times, and there wasn't that payoff that we wanted to see, as it looks like Marist once again looking for a dive or maybe just a tower take setup, as they do have this Herald, and this tower is about to die. Honestly, just dropping the Herald gives them enough space. Ninjax up top side, they'll be able to do anything on the Spot Bandit.
Yeah.
And full health Herald marching down towards this bot lane tier 2. It's going to be very tough to hold for Niagara as Cobra just going under tower, misses Crazy Monkey, but does make his way down a little deeper. Hypno trying to dive on the back line, but not quite enough. The slice back on the Spirit Dash from Cobra, and now Crazy Monkey lost without a team. As Llama's down the top side, Izzy taken out, of course, by Cobra, and now Crazy Monkey the next to fall, as Marist, in very dominating fashion, now the 10k gold lead, are breaking open Niagara's base.
Yeah, and I think here it is. This could actually be it. They have enough. This could end the game. They can end the game off this. They're gonna get this one turret at least.
This is close.
They have
yeah,
no way to stop this. This is close. That hell's gonna make it another charge off. No. Okay, if it got another charge off, definitely an end angle right there. But still gonna be jumping forward with the guns. The Fellas has good ones, but they're overextended and they're dead.
Yeah, they're overextended. Hypno's gonna pick up that kill, and now Random Main very, very low. The bouncing blade couldn't quite get enough, and there is the Hex Tech gate to escape, barely making it out over to the Drake. But I mean, the fact that that was almost the game ender.
Yeah, at 19 minutes, by the way.
This is
9 minutes, by the way. 9 minutes, by the way. Not 9 minutes. Yeah. 19 minutes, by the way. Yeah, if that Herald survived, like if that tower targeted a minion or something, and they got another charge off, that was an end angle for sure. But instead, actually, it was Wheels going way too far for that kill. If they kind of played front to back, I think they could have even won the fight afterwards, even if they're down a little bit of gold in terms of money spent. And because, like, Yone had no IE, Yone then picked up an IE. So definitely a really big difference in terms of power level there. But I understand what the composition here from Niagara is supposed to do. It's like a divey comp, but if it was a Kaisa and that one was like a Camille or something, could have been pretty sick. I think one is still fine. You don't need the Camille, but if that was like a Kaiser or something that can follow up on the dive, could have been pretty sick, because you saw there, Hypno goes in, and then they're dead. This 1v4, you know?
Yeah, it feels like this Nocturne just isn't quite the right dive option. And I mean, we just look at the gold. You see that Cobra is 4k ahead. The only lane that is ahead for Niagara is the jungle. Hypno ahead of Rando, but Rando's been doing so much, and just picks like this where the slow does enough to get in Cobra's range. This is going to be a Baron picked up for Marist, and honestly, they might just commit the Aphelios and the Zac. That's really all you need with a 20-minute Baron. And now Croissant Bandit finding Ninjax, and it is really more of a formality at this point. This Baron should be the last bit of pushing power that Marist needs to finish this one off.
Yep, and 20-minute ban being picked up, and I mean, this one seems a bit donezo. Yeah, this one seems a bit done. And what do you think the next, like, why do you think you change it up here now for Niagara is the question, right? Going in, you're not obviously saying that in team comms, but everyone's probably thinking it's like, what do we do next game to like change things up? What do we do to make things different? Starting in draft, what do we start taking away? I think the bot lane in particular for Manhattan was the weak part of the draft for them. They kind of salvaged it with the Yone. If that was not a Yone, if that was like a Victor or something, it would have been way worse. But I mean, I said it and they picked it up, and I was like, oh, no, well, that makes sense. Makes sense they wouldn't understand because they are very good teams. So they understand kind of like, at least Cobra understands like how to salvage that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure that this was also like they wanted mid counter pick just to give themselves the most pressure in that lane as possible to influence the rest of the map. And now it does look as though this is the final push for Marist.
Oh,
they are taking every tower they can. Yeah, Llamas is just going to go down here, going to get snipped away. Those needles actually go wide. Doesn't matter, the last bit of damage comes through from Cobra. And with that tank out of the picture, and all 5 members standing with plenty of damage, Marist just looking to try and take down this tower, take down those last bits of standing gold. Honestly, it's reached that point that inhibitor towers are like standing gold, just obstacles in the way of finishing this one off. Random Main jumps forward. Crazy Monkey going to go down after the stopwatch pops, and Ninjax trying to do what he can to stave off this assault.
Used a lot for that.
They did use a lot, but there's still so much in the tank, just raw damage-wise.
Yeah, I mean, no Yone ult for the next engage, no Zac ult, no Aphelios ult as well, but no only one Nexus turret. Yeah, no Nexus turrets. I was gonna say, if there was 2 Nexus turrets, maybe, but there's only one. Nocturne goes in. Goodbye, Hypno. Like, no one to follow up. The Vex can't get an angle on, and there it is. 23-minute game coming in. for Marist over Niagara. They want to face off against Manhattan and go for another win over Manhattan, kind of prove their dominance in the MAAC conference, because right now they are pretty, in most people's eyes, the number one undisputed like team in MAAC. Like there's no like other conferences, maybe there's like some teams that like 1 and 2 are like fighting close for it. Not here. It is 100% in Marist's favor all the way.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Marist very dominant that game. I mean, honestly, they're just showing what they have shown this entire season. And Niagara, while finding some options, finding some opportunities, is just not quite enough.
Yeah, not quite enough at all. And I'm kind of, again, I want to see what kind of changes start being made starting in draft, right? But and they're gonna have plenty of time to kind of think about what they want to do the draft, as we should be going to a 10-minute break. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna see if Marist can clean this out 2-0, or if Niagara can kind of fight this one back. A little bit 9-minute break just for you guys. Don't go anywhere.
and welcome back to the final semifinal of the MAAC conference for LoL, as Marist took a convincing game 1, really as we expected.
Yeah, we kind of expected that in a lot of ways going in, and I think we saw a lot of the reasons why we've been so hyped for Marist. Particularly, I think the top dive is something that we see a lot in high levels of play, and we don't see a lot in MAAC. And right there, we saw it in for Marist, and it's not like, oh, they did a top dive, but it's like how they play with the tempo they play, find these opportunities to go. But I think it's also a reason why we've been pretty happy with Niagara out throughout the season. Niagara at the beginning of the season could just roll over and die at times, but they were trying to make plays from hero ninjax from that Vex position. They were trying to make plays around the map. They definitely got the better side of the bot lane in terms of ganks getting off there. Obviously, Zach wasn't playing towards bot lane, so it wasn't really a priority for them. But solo kills in mid, solo kills on top, and Zach generally just being a nuisance to whenever a play was trying to be made in either of those lanes generally proved to win out in the end. But still, I think we have seen a lot of good stuff from Niagara, and I want to continue to see that in this next match.
Yeah, I mean, even if this is a 2-0, I want Niagara to show that they aren't the team that started off this season really struggling and not able to get the ball rolling, because from our first cast in MAAC together, we watched Niagara versus Fairfield, and it was a complete stomp for Fairfield. And I don't think that the Niagara we've seen today is that same Niagara we saw at the start of the season.
Yep, and I think it's confidence building, right? To go up against, obviously win your first series and then go up against Marist here, but a pretty good performance. Obviously, it's going to be what I assume is for a lot of people, the first lands here at MAAC. So obviously it's in 2 years. The world kind of got shut down, and a lot of the time that's enough time for you to move on for college, move out of college, and so a lot we're only going to be in online matches, right? Or have only been like playing from dorm rooms, playing from practice facilities. So getting them in this LAN environment, getting them to play, I think is always a really fantastic idea and really just a fun time.
Yeah, I think it's incredible that all of these players, they've competed the entire season, and now even if they're not making it to CLO championships, even if they're not making it to finals of the conference, they still have an opportunity that a lot of players never get, which is the opportunity to play on a stage, play at LAN, be in the same room as your opponents and as your teammates, and feed off of each other in that sense. I have attended a couple recent LANs, and I can tell you the energy and how you play is completely different from when players are at home. And that's the change we've seen out of Niagara, them being here at LAN, them being present, having that sort of team access. But now we're getting into draft, and we will see what, if any, changes can come through for Niagara.
Yeah, it's like now it's going to be interesting to see what kind of the draft looks like here for both Marist, who's on your left, and Niagara's on your right. So I think similar bans coming out. So that Jinx ban was a regardless of blue or red side ban, so they just want to get Jinx off the table. I think Zeri ban might be even more important now on red side. If they are banning it out, that might mean that Wheels plays it, and if that is the case, they could also pair it with a Yuumi, and if that happens, game's over. I mean, we've seen Yuumi, Zeri, unless the nerf is severe enough to Zeri. That is like the caveat. I don't quite know the math on it, but yeah, Zumi Zeri is a nigh unkillable monster in the mid game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Zumi Zeri is the fuel of nightmares, and I don't want to see it. And I mean, even Zeri paired along something like a Lulu can completely break the game, and we are seeing the exact same bans from both teams. This does mean Croissant Bandit will have access to that Gwen. It means Nate the Great will have the Lux pickup. Or maybe Cobra wants to pick up something like a Vladimir. I'm guessing that they're going to stick with this Lux. It's still flexible. It's not really Cobra's style, but regardless, Nate the Great did get first blood and is pretty confident on that pick in the bot lane. So we'll have to see exactly how Niagara responds. They're the ones in the back foot. They're the ones who need to change something, and maybe Tarek is the start of that.
Tarek, not in the meta currently in terms of supports that are going to come out. But it's going to be the Leona instead. First pick, blind Lux is always interesting. Could be a Caitlyn to go along with it, but they seem to want it with the don't salty run back. Don't do that. Oh no, how do you swap sides and have a salty run back? I don't know if this is the play. I think that's a mistake. I don't think you see that last game and go, our composition was good there. I don't think that is, or even like my bot lane was good there. I think you definitely wanted something different here. Picking this up just means they're kind of stuck, I think.
Yeah, and with that Leona Sivir, I think they were banking on running into Lux Aphelios again. And now you just pick Ezreal. You lose any potential pressure you have with a poke off. And we saw last game that even with how strong Sivir's wave clear is, Lajwheel still had a CS lead. And if that trend continues, you're just going to have better poke on the side of Marist. And here's the Warwick, here's the dog, here is my boy on Hypno.
You know the Warwick
I don't know if it's the right
Warwick,
change.
You know?
I do know the Warwick stuff.
I don't know if it's the right
you still go lethal tempo, you still do all that jazz. I've seen some people still experiment with PTA, but I just don't think it's quite as strong because you can't literally just look at someone and after autoing them for 2 seconds, just go into a frenzy. The Viego matchup is honestly pretty good in my opinion. As you do win your early duels, you can duel him pretty much up until first item comes into play. And one thing about Warwick that I think is really interesting at times and why I really like him is if you can get an early kill, get your early Tiamat, you're about as efficient on that Tiamat as most champions are with their mythic components when it comes to early game dueling. So you can really start to just ramp up and continue moving as we're seeing some targeting from against Cobra. We're seeing the Sylas and the Talon taken away. We're seeing the Diana and Nocturne taken away from Hypno, it seems. So maybe this is a Warwick top or something. That's all I can really think of. But regardless if this is Warwick going into the jungle, I think it's going to help Hypno a lot because what Warwick does, and this is really just from my own growth as a player, is it makes up for your pathing and your positioning mistakes. It lets you just sort of start running towards the part of the map you need to be at so much faster than anyone else.
What is happening? What am I looking like? I
don't know. I don't know where this Anivia came from. I'm going to be honest.
I don't know where the Anivia came from. Don't know where the Civic came from. Don't know where this Fizz is coming from. I don't know what's going on. I don't really know what's happening. I think Fizz has been close to viable in pro play for a while. It's needed a little bit of help. It's a little bit not susceptible in lane, but like it lacks a little bit of extra pizzazz in the mid to late game in terms of like it's very one note. It's very I'm just gonna throw a fish at you and then hope I kill you. Unlike something like a LeBlanc, right, where go in, can play a poke game, and then can have that full engage. Like that's why LeBlanc is so strong. You have so many modes. You have like the poke mode. You have the full burst mode. Like there's so many different modes you can go with LeBlanc. Where Fizz is like very one note. It's like I'm gonna throw my fish at you. If you die, you die. I'm gonna go in. It's gonna be a fun time. And now I don't know what this is going to be. This could be a jungler, it could be a top laner. Depends on where they want to throw that work. What if it's heal barrier Warwick top? You know, it's heal barrier Warwick top. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I really hope that this is. I hope this is Sejuani top. I want some Alorum tech.
Whoa! I don't know if I want this Sejuani top. I don't know if I want this Sejuani top. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'm gonna say.
I don't think that's the play.
I don't know if it's the play.
Don't say it.
Don't say it. For Swamp Bandit, but I do think it can be fun to watch. No. We will have to see. It doesn't look like it, considering how those were jungle bans up against Hypno. And from as the swaps were coming through that we saw, it did look like that Sejuani was going into the jungle. But stylistically, Llamas is a tank player, Hypno is a bruiser carry player, and what is Warwick? A bruiser pseudo carry. And what is Sejuani? A hyper tank. So we could see that Sejuani top secret sauce. I've seen it. No. I've seen it work, but it's also by Alorum,
when did you see it work?
On Zeus, and what?
When did you see it work? Where was that? Where was that?
Alorum in Proving Grounds last season.
In Proving Grounds? We're going off Proving Grounds? No.
I am saying it has worked. I am not saying it will work today, but I am saying that there is a challenger player who used to be on Immortals who has made it work.
Yeah, Yeah, it's also
That is what I am saying.
someone on Immortals. Like, I don't know what else is to be said there.
Yeah, someone who was on one of the top 4 amateur teams in the country. Just
my man. You were okay. I don't go and okay, man. Here's the problem with saying challenger players. A lot of challenger players are one tricks just because they play a weird thing.
Alorm is not a one trick.
I know Alorm's not a one trick. I know Alorm's not a one trick. But those weird things can get some value just from being weird. That's all I'm gonna say.
They can. They can get some value from being
I guess that's the play. That's the play for Niagara. Be weird and hope we can take him out. I mean,
I gotta.
If this Warwick has barrier heal or something like that, I see like the Warwicks that are like, I'm just gonna cheese you level 1 and just fight you. I'm gonna have a Joker moment. It's gonna be great.
Oh my gosh.
It's gonna be amazing.
But I was actually able to cast like Alorm's first PG game because it wasn't on like a mainstream, it was on a side stream where he pulled out the Sejuani sauce, and I was like, I'd been watching his stream, I'd been sniping, and I'm like, he's gonna bring it out. He brought out the Sejuani top, and I was like, yes, so happy. I think it's very funny to watch sometimes because it is weird. It is very interesting because Sejuani has a surprising amount of damage for a tank top laner. Like, she has those base damages that are kind of stupid. You can find ways to get ahead if you coordinate with your jungler, but this looks like a sort of left field draft out of Niagara. Looks like they're having fun. They're thinking, we can't beat him with standard. Let's beat him with wacky. And I like the energy. I like some of these picks, and I hope they work. I just really hope they work.
Yeah. Never seen this before from Niagara. I've casted so many MAAC games. Never seen a draft like this. Never seen the Fizz come out either, I think. So a lot of different things coming out today. And honestly, both drafts are pretty bad. But, from a pure standpoint of like what could have been. What could have been, You could have had Omega boring, Omega standard stuff. But it's fun now. So I actually don't care if the drafts are bad because I get to commentate potentially Fizz getting 20 billion kills and have some PTSD because
take me back.
I'm happy more people don't play Fizz. I'm so happy that character.
I used to be a Fizz permaban person. Even when I was
I can play against Fizz now. I can play against Fizz now, but I think I just permaban Zed just because like if you go up against like a lot of Zeds in ranked, like they're just Zed players, and there's also like 20 billion of them. So when you ban them, you ban out like 50% of players you meet in the game. So it's a pretty good game. It's a pretty good ban. And they just don't know what to do. They're just like, man, you took my Zed, now time to go some other assassin and that I don't know how to play, and then I just feed. It's great fun.
Yeah, that was me when I was bronze in season 5. Like when I first started playing, I was like, oh my gosh, Zed, and I would watch Red Mercy and I'd see all these cool clips and I'm like, I want to do that. And of course I was bronze, so I couldn't do it. But it was fun. It was a fun time. I didn't like the Zed permabans, but regardless, we have Fizz versus Anivia. Very Fizz favored. I have faith. I have hope, not faith, that Ninjax will be able to play this safely. But we have seen what happens when Cobra gets on an assassin and gets rolling, and it is terrifying.
Yeah, I don't have faith. I don't have faith in landing phases. I think it's an easily exploitable thing, and the reason why a lot of players are in high elo is because they're just good at landing phase. Because they can make mistakes.
It is Llamas on the Warwick with barrier.
See, okay, it wasn't heal, but it was barrier. See, this is the Warwick nonsense cheese where you just fight them level 1 with barrier. And I completely forgot that Viego was picked early, and then they picked a Zac. I completely forgot. Okay, now I get to talk about Zac. I love this champion. That should have been Zac top. I'm just gonna say it right now. I should have been Zac top. Agree. Never mind. They banned. They ruined Zac top. Pre-item rework. Zac top was the most fun character in the game. Bar none, the most fun character in the game, and then they completely ruined it where you have to now choose a mythic, and now you can't get Leandries, and Demonics is just not a good It used to be so fun to go so tanky, then just throw Leandries in there, and you're just like, no one can fight me. Not a single person in the game can fight me now, and it was so much fun. But they killed that. They killed all my fun, and I have not gone back to Zac top a lot since. Yeah, but it's gonna be Viego instead. Who wins the 1v1? The Warwick with barrier or the Viego with no flash and ignite? This one.
I'm still gonna say the Warwick with barrier level 2, just
why
because.
Shield?
I don't know. I actually don't hate it, just because you don't need extra damage from your passive and from your W just letting you slap a ton of damage down. But if Llama's on this Warwick, can hit level 2, can start a fight, should win against Croissant Bennett, but you have to be careful about that Ignite. You have to pop your barrier very carefully when you are below 20% HP to make sure you're retaining those attack speed buffs. It's very delicate. That's a reason why I don't play Warwick topside. I just go jungle, I 3 camp, I hit level 3, and I smork.
We get it. You coin flip games. I do
coin flip games.
You coin flip games.
For me, like when I play League on my own, I just want to have fun. I don't want to do a lot of thinking. I don't want to put all because I will put all of my effort in when I'm not in the game. I will study the game. I will do all this stuff to learn so I can be a better caster. But when I'm playing League, I just want to vibe. I want to vibe with my dog.
Yeah, well, getting back, I was going to say something about like Warwick build, and I was going to say, oh yeah, you should go longsword because you can build a Tiamat faster, as in the Tiamat from so long ago, where it was a reju beat and two longswords. Yeah. One reju beat, 2 longswords, man. And you would go a reju beat start on your Warwick and jungle because you would want to get to your Tiamat faster. That's what I was thinking about. And I was like, man, I every time I think about it, like, man, new items kind of suck. Like, new items kind of made things a lot worse. Not gonna lie, in terms of fun, creative builds.
It was so fun because, like, what do you do with potions as Warwick? You can't die to neutrals unless you do a 20-minute Baron. Like, I will be level 4. I will go up to Dragon. I will hit 20% HP, and I will not die. I don't need potions. I want my Rejuve beat. I want my 150 gold discount.
Just buy the Rejuve beat anyways. Just build your own path. Build your own path in the world.
I'll go Tiamat into Divine into Warmogs. That's the build now.
It's fine, yeah. Kind of sitting in the spot lane. I mean, this is kind of how it goes. The Sivir Leona lane. If I was Sivir Karma, they could maybe try to match the poke here from the Ezreal Lux, so they can't, so they're gonna get pushed in. And now it's gonna be a gank at the top side. Can Llamas get out? Has Flash, has barrier. Doesn't even need to use either, I would say.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Flash. Okay,
actually that was a necessary flash because after the Ignite gets dropped, did have barrier, but I think you can't really barrier there because one, barrier is an offensive spell. I believe in Llamas here to go under. Okay, never mind. Dead. That Q really ended it because yes, you can get the reset, but now you don't have your little chomp under tower to be able to just get a 20% of your health back. So using the Q on the wave when the Fizz is missing and the Zac is hovering, not the best idea. But we've got Hypno coming around the back. The Zenith Blade doesn't land by Crazy Monkey, and Hypno not able to get the last auto down to stun up Nate the Great. So Marist will be able to just walk away. This is just, I think, what we expected. It was a good gank attempt, but just barely off on these timings from Crazy Monkey and Hypno. Yes, shoot.
How did Fizz get pushed on the Anivia with not a lot of health being taken off?
Anivia
Anivia was not.
If you dodge enough,
Anivia just did not shoot the person that needed to get shot, I think.
I mean, I will say though, Cobra across the lane was also weaving around those Q stuns pretty well, and does have corrupting, so most likely was at about 50% HP.
This back is
2
weird.
Corruptings on the roam up. This is a very weird back. There is no teleport available, and it's on a cannon
stopped
wave.
It though. It could have been worse. If Hero just kind of last hit and let the wave push in, all of those minions die, and then you can kind of hold the wave in front of your turret, back TP, hold the wave, and then your Fizz has to walk up really far to try to get any value out of it. So that was bad back from Cobra, and then like a weirder decision from Hero Ninjax not to punish it, but I guess didn't see that angle. Now it just allows the Fizz to get off that back and not be punished for it. Gonna keep that CS advantage.
Definitely. As we are just seeing that teleport used by Ninjax. Didn't quite get all of their mana back, so did just channel that teleport a little too early, which is unfortunate because that's really why you're backing as Anivia is to get that full mana bar. And now Cobra with the level 6 will likely be able to have some kill pressure on this mid lane. No Ignite, but still it is Fizz up against Anivia, who, if I'm not mistaken, has the second lowest base health in the game.
Is it?
I think it's behind Sona, but now we've got Randomain trying to make sure that there is a kill here. As Cobra hops over, did miss the Chum of the Waters, and as such, Ninjax will be able to flash away, but still forcing out resources from this very immobile mage. Cobra continuing to get ahead, and now actually might have an angle onto Hypno, should they choose to get it. Actually just uses the Blast Plant to head back over and continue the fight. Does actually pop the Anivia pack, or actually doesn't pop the egg, I don't think.
Interesting.
I think Ninjax survived with like 2
no
HP.
Ignite, no Ignite.
Yeah, no Ignite. No, the Ignite came up right after that engage. Randomain now on the wrong side of the pit. But of course, Zach can jump right over.
God, I love Zach. He's so funny. He's also a really good person too in the lore. You know, he's like tries to help the weak of Zon or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like he didn't know his lore for a long time. Gone wrong.
But gone right actually, because his parents were like taking care of him. Like it's one of those stories. Like a lot of stories in League and lore get like really like depressing. Like the League, the story for Zach is just super wholesome. I like it a lot. You know,
it is very wholesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Llama's here. Always has a kill angle because you're Warwick.
You're barrier.
Honestly, your barrier Warwick at half health. You are basically at full health with the healing you'll receive from your Q on champions, because you get that, because it does scale with percentage max HP of your opponent. So there is that effect, but Randomain now could get caught by Hypno.
Ooh.
Stun does go down, and Ninjax is on the way. But that last auto didn't land, and Randomain somehow not sent into blob form. Crazy Monkey now here to join the party. Blade from very, very far away, and heal dropped by Izzy. Not entirely sure what that was, but a series of spells were cast.
Wheels got terrified of that Zenith play. Wheels was terrified that Zenith play was gonna hit him from 2 million miles away. I don't know. That flash is a little unnecessary. Obviously, it's an Ezreal, but I mean, Arcane Shift plus flash basically means that Ezreal's never gonna get caught out on a gank. With only Arcane Shift, it's definitely possible, especially if he was wanting to follow it up. I mean, that was a pretty bad mistake, and Sejuani could regank, but mid lane is gonna get a solo kill. Another thing that we've said time and time again. So, right now, it's kind of the Cobra show in a lot of ways. Has 2 kills for them is going to be the real big carry on the Fizz. And with enough CDR, Fizz can basically be in a fight forever. Don't go there. That Llama's 1 is Warwick and 2 has Barrier. Don't do that.
I mean, at this point is low enough that actually no Ignite on Croissant Bandit did use it in an earlier engage. So I would have liked to see Llamas just the second that the Viego steps under tower, press W, press E, get them to auto you once, fear them back in a tower, ulti, that's a kill, you know? But
you think Croissant Bandit would fall for that one?
The thing is, if you are at the caster creep level, the second you can do all of that within the span of like a second and a half. You know, your channel times are not very long. You can do it pretty quick. I have 300,000 mastery.
yeah, I know. I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying as in like I see.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I play against Warwick's top and I'm just like, they are just looking for any amount of cheese. Literally any amount of cheese. Any way that they can just absolutely bamboozle me is the only way they're gonna try and win. And I think if I'm Croissant, I'm like, this guy is looking for something dastardly. But so far, Lawrence has not done anything dastardly. He's simply just down 30 CS. That's not dubious at all. That is it's just rough.
And the trouble
he's fighting top. He's fighting top, I think. They're fighting top. Oh no, please, I want to see this.
My boy,
what is happening? Push him under turret.
Oh, but instead we're gonna see Ninjax
never mind.
Die.
Not egg. No egg.
And yeah, that's it. That's the end of the story. As Hypno doesn't have the damage to do anything else. Does look like Croissant Bandit was able to do a bit. But the thing is with Warwick top is you need to get a lead right around level 6. If not earlier. Because if you start to... Because the thing is, your laning is fundamentally pretty bad. Because you don't have any ways of really surviving or pushing lane. You have exclusively single target damage until you get Tiamat. And considering Llamas is just going for a Bork Rush, that... is never coming through. You're never having that AoE, and it means that you really just need to be killing your opponent to be winning the lane, and we've never seen that aggression out of Llamas. And that was a Sivir ulti.
They thought they were going in. The Sejuani backed up. By the point the Sivir pressed R, they were already too far back to go in. Rough miscommunication there, and it's just kind of costing them. It hasn't really felt like the typical Marist dominance, but I mean, it has felt like a series of kind of missteps, you know, from Niagara that's going to get punished.
This feels like Niagara is trying their hardest not to give anything away, but in being so cautious, they are allowing Marist to just passively get ahead. You know, there's no neutral objective control from Niagara. There are CS deficits in every single lane.
Oh,
Frozen Bola shot getting wasted there.
Just go faster.
It's really just a few points where resources aren't being used all that efficiently, and Cobra has also just gotten 3 kills in the mid lane, so you can't really contest this fish. And it's opened up a 3.5k gold lead for Marist.
Isn't Fizz a Yordle?
Fizz, I think, is technically a Yordle, as Croissant Bandit does wind up doing that. Llamas, you have wall hacks, just jump over the wall.
Why can't we just call champions what they are? It's not a Yordle, it's a fish. I don't know.
A fish.
Really weird.
I think he's a fish.
A fish. I mean, he's a fish, but they like call him a Yordle. It's like weird. I don't know.
It's because he's short.
Every character that is short is now a Yordle. It's like it doesn't matter what they. It doesn't matter anything else. If they're short, they're a Yordle. It's like that Yordle is not a replacement for midget. But there's going to be a lot of fighting. Why is Cobra half HP?
Cobra is at half HP and might just die to the base damages from Solar Flare and a little bit from the Blizzard. As now Nate the Great in a bad position, does get stunned up. Final Spark does still go through. Izzy Sweetheart trying to find that kill. Rando Main surely to go down here, sent to blob form, but Nate the Great still going. And the top side, I think Croissant Bandit might be on the wrong side of a Warwick. Does pop the barrier as I'm shoutcasting a fight that I'm not looking at, but I just know it's happening. And does find the solo kill. That's my boy.
How?
It's called Lethal Tempo plus 70% bonus attack speed on targets that have less than 20% HP.
Just run away. Okay. Yeah. Well,
I think you have to remember that you get a lot of attack speed.
I know. You get a lot of attacks. You get a lot of healing. I've seen the compilation. I've seen the stuff where it's like the clips where it's like, is Warwick actually just absolutely giga broken? It seems every day. It's like I think we're like, we're closer to that point. But yeah, I think a good question was also brought up in chat. Is Annie also a Yordle because they're short? I think so.
Annie's a child.
No, Annie's a Yordle. Okay? Annie's a
Yordle now.
Annie's a Yordle. If you're small, you're a Yordle.
Someone like take this clip, tweet at Riot, tweet at Freak.
Is Annie a Yordle?
Is Annie a Yordle?
Well, Freak would know. Freak would know, right? Yeah.
Freak would know.
Freak would know.
So go do your due diligence, everyone in chat. Find out. Ask.
But
Freak.
Also, back to what they were going for this play bot lane, but Cobra was half HP. Fish is thrown out. Fish is gone. Did get the flash out from Anivia, however, but Cobra gave over a shutdown to Hero Ninjax, who was like, I'm gonna say the main damage threat for this team. That was just a really odd play to go for that when you don't have a lot of HP on your person with that is not only fed but also has the bounty, and now you're kind of just wandering into 3 of them.
Yeah, you are wandering into 3 of them as Ninjax finds Rando Main, and I'm gonna say Marist is giving advantages over to Niagara. Now this Hextech Drake is potentially here for the taking for Niagara. Now there's no jungler on the side of Marist, as again, I think Marist is having a little bit of what we saw out of Manhattan, and that is the hubris of getting ahead and thinking you just have a lock on your opponents.
Another solo kill down for the Fizz though, and I was gonna say I guess Sivir died in the look what Sivir died. Look what the Ezreal and Luxor. That's funny. That's fun. I think the Sivir got to play the game there. Gets killed from over a wall, out of sight. Not even a flash either. But yeah, Fizz is gonna be getting a lot fed here. And I was gonna say, like, in terms of scaling, where do you think this goes? Ooh. Well, Lone is dead, hopefully.
So is Cobra, as it's actually the Ignite from Crazy Monkey that finds the kill, and did look, and Llamas was rotating down. There is a world, I think, where actually Niagara can contest this. Llamas will be dealing quite a bit of damage with that Bork in hand. I am still a Divine Sunder Titanic Hydra purist in my own right, but there is a lot of damage that I will respect that comes out of the Blade of the Ruined King Warwick, because you attack so quickly and you just don't die unless there is 60% Grievous Wounds applied by your opponent, which in this case, Croissant Bandit does have it in the Ignite.
Gonna be having that. And right now, I think I was gonna ask you before that fight did break out, like scaling wise, which side kind of has the favorite, like is favorited? Because I was gonna say like Ezreal versus Sivir, it's slightly Ezreal favored, but then look at the rest of the maps, like Anivia, maybe not Warwick, but like Anivia is pretty good scaling compared to a Fizz. But like I don't know, it's so, these drafts are so weird. It's kind of hard to like talk about like which has better what, because they just operate so, they're so individual. It feels like both these squads, like it doesn't feel like the composition's kind of like meshed together well, like the poke from the Lux Ezreal, whereas Fizz wants to be going in along with the Zac and the Viego. It's like those things are just so disjointed.
I mean, I can see how Marist plays a fight. You let Lux and Ezreal chunk out 1 or 2 members, you have Fizz get them really low, and Croissant Bandit just starts resetting, you know? That's one way to play out your team fight. On the other side, Niagara is in just Control City. You know, this reminds me of those really old Season 2 VODs where it was like Anivia, Tristana, survive until 60 minutes until you win 1 fight and run down the base. And I don't see many other ways to really win with this composition unless this Warwick becomes a monster that can just one-shot people, which again, probably isn't going to happen considering he's just been even with the Viego.
Yeah, he did get the solo kill in though, so he's not too bad. I
mean, he can solo kill.
I mean, I don't think there's ever a point. I don't think there's ever a point where the Viego kills the Warwick, right?
No, really, realistically, if you time your infinite duress correctly, it is quite difficult. Now, I will say, if you do get Grievous Wounds on the Viego, it becomes a lot easier. It becomes a lot more doable. But Warwick, as a champion, is really just designed for the 1v1. Because you have so many tools that are just, even if we're even at this point, I am going to come out ahead because I get my bonuses tripled from my W. So I'm getting, 110% attack speed plus triple healing from my autos and my Q and my Blade of the Ruined King. There's all of these factors coming into play when you get to low health. So you have lots of comeback, and with the barrier, you can stay at that lower health total a little longer. So the side lane should always be Warwick favored, but without a Tiamat, it becomes very difficult to actually split push.
Yeah, and I think so far this game is leaving with some question marks for Marist, right? They are playing a little bit off in tempo, and in terms of like some decisions have been a little odd. That play on the bot lane where they gave over that shutdown, and then some subsequent fights afterwards were a bit odd, to be honest. And those are like those questions I just never had from Marist before. So it's interesting to see this happen when like there's an unorthodox draft on the other side, that their response is not as coordinated as I've seen from them in like more standard drafts before. So that could be something to kind of look at if you're Manhattan watching this game right now, because I know they are. What can we do? Can we throw curveballs in draft that help us get an edge? Maybe.
Yeah, because it does seem like Marist. I will say though, Marist is playing this a little bit more solo queued than we normally see out of them.
Yeah.
They're going for more individual picks. They're having this extended laning phase. And now, with this group up around the bot side, this could really serve as the break point, as Randomain, about to leap over the wall, does find that double knockup, plus the Let's Bounce. That'll be all you need to pick up 2 quick kills. And of course, Cobra is in the back line, trying to do what he can. And three members actually, yes, already down for Niagara, as a quick fight for Marist turns into Dragon Pressure, Mid Pressure, and control of this blue side jungle.
Yeah, that's the match I like to see right there. And you said your point, you said it was very solo queue, and I think this comp is very solo queue-y, right? It feels like it's very individual answers, or like, it feels very individual, right? Like in a vacuum, Ezreal Lux probably beats out the Sivir Leona, but doesn't synchronize well with the rest of our team. And it's like, I want to play Viego, I want to play Fizz, that kind of stuff. It's like, it feels very solo queue, and we haven't seen this from them before. I don't know if it's like a one-off thing because it's Niagara. I don't quite know, but interesting. It's not like a horrible thing, but it's an interesting thing. I think is kind of like the point to get.
It's not making them lose by any means.
No, it's not making them lose. They are really good.
6K ahead. They're still winning. They're still in complete control of this game. But it isn't what we expected, and it's not what we saw out of them last game, where they did have a very coordinated front-to-back team.
It's not like they're ending the game at 22 minutes, right? You know, like we've seen from them before.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that. Like, that's what they do, you know?
Exactly. And
kill
now we're not seeing that, so... Llamas? If like, the one thing, though, is as the game gets later and later, it becomes harder and harder to try and play this very individualistic Warwick style, because you can take 1v1s, you can sometimes take 2v1s, but once you start getting CC'd, once you start getting ignited, it becomes very, very difficult to actually, you know, fight it out, as we are seeing Nate the Great come up, does have that ignite, so if Cobra is able to bait a fight out of Llamas, it's likely going to end in disaster for the Warwick, as we do see that Howl used and immediately ran away after you see that E come from the Lux. So we're still in a bit of a stalling period, a holding pattern out of both teams. I think Marist just waiting for an opportunity where they really want to strike, because I feel like they could be forcing things if they really needed to.
Yeah, definitely can start doing that, but it's gonna be interesting to see how this game ends up evolving into the later, when we start getting to maybe 30 minutes-ish. So that's where this game is going. Doesn't look like this is like an end angle anytime soon. Still have tier 2s up in the top and bottom, as well as this tier 1, and that was the play in the top lane. We'll see if this ends up being anything. It looks like the TP was just used for nothing, as they're just gonna disengage this.
Yeah, I think the TP was sort of it was really a disengaged TP, if that makes any sense, where Marist was stepping forward, they were looking to pressure down Llamas, but I think Niagara made the calls where this could turn into a fight that we might be able to win because we're playing towards our Warwick. But again, Marist smartly backs off, just says, all right, we'll go take other parts of the map, as they have, you know, Croissant Bandit in this bot lane, pushing up this tier 2. You see Randomain and Nate the Great pushing up mid lane, making sure that Niagara just doesn't really have space to freely move around the map.
Yeah, definitely a lot of pressure being exerted right now by this, like, the presence of the Zac. Really, like, the Zac is somewhat a play might happen, and you have to kind of respect it. Obviously, forcing out that TP there from Anivia, they're scared of that play happening. And right now, it's just kind of a waiting game for this next dragon. Gonna give them on Soul Point, and from there, now every dragon is just a threat of, we're gonna have this Ocean Soul, and it's gonna be insanely hard to kill us, and that's never good or never fun to go against when there's only form of Grievous they have right now is on their Sejuani. So yeah, not the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, and it's Bramble, which means you can pretty easily avoid it if you are a Croissant Bandit, or even Randomain, you know, those probably primary healers out of Marist. And of course, once you get Ocean, you just don't auto the Sejuani, you ignore her as long as possible, and you'll just passively heal up your entire health bar after getting poked out by the Anivia. Really, Ocean Soul just completely negates what Anivia wants to do, because any chip damage you can get with Blizzard or the stun will get healed back up, and it's a bad time if you are Niagara.
Yeah, definitely going to be a bad time. And okay, look at that Ezreal Mythic and tell me that's the correct decision.
I can't. I have a buddy who is a big Ezreal player, and I think he'd be crying right now if he was on cast with us.
I'm crying right now. Why are you going Prowler Claw, Ezreal? Why do you want to go melee range against a Warwick, Sejuani, Anivia, Leona? Why would you ever want to go melee range against any of them? What is that mythic choice right there? That is just odd.
I do not get it. I will say, if you want to go lethality, just go Duskblade.
Just go Duskblade. You don't. Why would you even go lethality here against tanky characters, bro? What's up with that?
I don't know, it's playing with your wallet. 3k gold ahead of Izzy Sweetheart, so really able to do whatever you want as far as that matchup. And of course, we're seeing across the board, really, except for in that top and jungle, some pretty significant disparities between the mid, ADC, and supports, as Rando, Cobra, and the rest of this Marist squad looking to just secure the little bit of vision that Niagara had for this Soul Point. It does look like Niagara wants to contest, but realistically, what can you do as the root lands on a crazy monkey? The wall comes down, but it's too little too late, The Chum the Waters does the work, and now the Let's Bounce keeps everyone in place. Llama's on the back line, will find Laj Wheel, so that's at least a silver lining, and the egg does get popped, will go down very, very soon. Nate the Great was getting pressured. Somehow Hypno might be able to survive as the triple kill for Cobra, although Croissant Bandit is able to find the kill, and now may be able to reset onto Llamas, but Llamas still very, very healthy at that level 14. Can't really go for this fight, as of course there is the rest of Marist behind, as it really does feel like a waiting game as Llama's trying to stay alive, trying to do what he can, does pop the barrier, but Nate the Great is here, and that should be enough. Staying alive somehow, still staying alive, keep going, keep going, there's the reset, there's the final spark! Nate the Great somehow saves Croissant Bandit!
No,
as Llama's nearly doing the impossible.
No, I saw when that Lux was not detonating that E, they did not understand. They were not aware. They were not aware in the slightest right there. So they were trying to give the kill over to Croissant Bandit, and Croissant Bandit was probably just like, yeah, give me the kill. And then they realized the healing came in, and they're like, oh god, please just kill him, get him out of here. Because they were gonna lose that. If he got that kill, they were losing that. He was so close. That was almost disastrous for them after a nice part of goodwill from Nate the Great almost turned into a double kill for the Warwick. So, man. Yeah.
I am going to say, if you want like a little detail of a way that Llamas actually could have won that 2v1, if he had held on to the Q he procced that was eventually bind, where it's like he pressed Q and the binding came through. If you hold Q there, you become invulnerable, you avoid the root, you're on the right side of the Viego, and you have the agency to actually avoid that final spark. So there was a world in which that Warwick pulls out the 2v1, but it was not this world, unfortunately. It is honestly one of those little mechanics that is tough to think about and can be hard to pull off at times. So still props to Llamas for doing what he can in these fights.
Yeah, and right now it's going to be a fight in this jungle. Final Spike is going to come out, get a lot of damage down. Shieldbow is gone, doesn't allow them to get the reset off, and now the possession's not going to come through, and Llamas, what is that? The arcade
Llamas with a Phantom hitbox will actually keep going! Keep going!
Oh, Cobra.
You have all the move speed in the world. Llamas, you can keep going.
Cobra's scary. Cobra's very scary.
I don't care. I just want to see Warwick clips because I never get it. This is my first time casting Warwick.
Is that so, huh?
Yeah, and I've been a Warwick main longer than I have been casting. So I've been waiting for this day. And it finally came, and I'm very, very happy. Because it's fun.
Yeah. Well, over a 10k gold lead here for Marist. So, we said this before, very few teams have the honor of throwing away a lead like this, G2 being one of them. So if you are G2 right now, you are sweating. But otherwise, you're generally pretty confident in this. You're generally thinking 11.7k gold lead, or like a 11.2k gold lead is pretty good. Generally going to be, we are winning this game. They also, in my belief, if they don't outscale, they at least go a bit even in scaling across the board. Anivia is the scariest part of this enemy composition, but you have a Lethality Sivir, you have a Warwick. It's like, it's not the worst thing in the world. And this Fizz is at a point where they have Death Cap up, going for that Void Staff. They are going to be popping people. So they don't really fall off per se, but they are just, it's not like a Corki doing like 1 billion damage per rocket, but it's still a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's still like you've reached the point that once you get that Void Staff, there's really nothing that Ninjax and Izzy can do besides Izzy having a well-timed spell shield and Ninjax just getting the well-timed stopwatch to actually survive against this Fizz. You know, the damage numbers are just getting too high, where even, you know, a QE auto is probably enough damage to find a kill without the Chum the Waters being applied.
Ooh.
As Root goes on to 2. Final Spark drop, but that is onto the tanks. So not the worst thing that could happen for Niagara, but of course they are still 11.5k down. I was going to say Ocean Soul coming up in just 20 seconds, and this will likely be the final nail in the coffin that Marist was waiting for before trying to finish this one out.
Yeah, and right now they're kind of running it on mid currently, looking to find some amount of map presence here, but are going to be getting off. That's a 20 at half HP, not really wanting to go in so far. It's going to be on Anivia to try to poke this one out. Can they do it? Viego has a good angle to get in. Going to be TPing behind as well. This is the engage they wanted.
This is the engage they wanted as Cobra already taken out Izzy. The carries can't do anything. Hypno, the last one standing. Everyone effectively getting one shot by the combined might of Marist as they will take the Ocean Soul, head over to the Baron, and likely look to end this game, end this series, and punch their tickets to the MAAC Conference Finals tomorrow.
That was a lot more one-sided of a fight than I thought it would be, honestly. They were a little bit poked out beforehand, and the engage was extremely good, but I thought they might be able to get something to fight back, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of just rough. I mean, you don't have any sums used on your AD carry. Generally would have wanted to use those before you died, but not going to end up happening. And yeah, like you said, looks like they're going to be ending this game, going on to fight for the ability to represent MAAC at CLOL, and I think they have a very good shot of doing so. This game has been very wonky from them. I've not seen this before from them, but I think if they play their normal way against almost any other team in MAAC, they are winning. And then against other conferences, I think they do extremely well. I think they can definitely represent this division well, but we'll see how that ends up tomorrow if they end up winning. I mean, this is a nigh unthrowable lead. You have Baron, have an Ocean Soul, have what is that, 16k gold lead right now, like a 15.5k gold lead. If you lose this game, that is baffling, unfathomable. Like I don't imagine that could ever happen, right?
Yeah,
surely
this would also be the first. I think this will also be the first like sanctioned competitive game of League of Legends that had a Prowler's Claw Ezreal winning.
Nah, but that's just dumb. Like that's just not real. That's just not real, right? We just are ignoring that. We're just ignoring
a visual
that,
bug, right?
It's a visual bug, right? That's totally not like, that's totally like a Trinity or a Sunderer. Dude, go Sunderer this game. Why would you not go Sunderer?
I don't know. I honestly do not know. I wish I knew, but
yo, fight him, Croissant, fight him.
Yeah, just let this top lane 1v1. Let them fight. I want to see it. I want to see them enter the Gladiator pit, because I think Croissant Bandit finally wins it. But now here's the engage. There's the Let's Bounce. Ninjak's already gone. Llama's trying to do what he can. Misses the Infinite Duress. Tries to get a big old fear, but there's no damage to follow it up. As just Izzy, Sweetheart, and Hypno are left standing. And the entirety of Marist is here to finish out the game. Finally able to take this one down. We had 23 minutes in game 1. Looks like we'll have about 30, a little over 33 in game 2. As we talked about them all weekend, we talked about them all season. Marist continuing to have not a single map dropped, regardless of draft, regardless of opponent here in MAAC, as all they have left to do is hit the Nexus, punch their ticket to finals, and look to face Manhattan tomorrow to see who will represent MAAC at the CLOL playoffs.
Yep, and we now see as the game does end, we'll be getting the, of course, it's going to be Marist taking the victory there. Going to be going on to compete against Manhattan tomorrow, and we have some math, apparently, about why Prowler's Claw is better. It gives more lethality, it gives 18 lethality with lethality mythic passive, so it gives as more damage than Duskblade, but why go Duskblade in that situation either? You go Trinity Force, you have Eclipse even if you want.
You can't go
healing as well. Like, I don't know. It's whatever. It's just, or just go Mythicless in that game. Just go Mythicless and then just send it. Like, there's so many other options for Ezreal builds and Prowler's Claw that it's just like, I understand that it does a little bit more damage than Duskblade, but like,
yeah, happens. But that's not what we have to worry about.
No.
Here's the bracket as the MAAC Esports Championship weekend will be coming to a close tomorrow as Marist will look to take on Manhattan. Manhattan had a good showing against Fairfield today. I was very, very impressed with how they were able to come from behind as well as push forward. And we also have to remember, we can't write off Manhattan because while yes, in their round robin match, they did go down 0-2 to Marist, they have been practicing, they have been adjusting their strategies, they have been finding ways to crack Marist's armor. And if they can find those answers, if they can find those chinks, I think that tomorrow could be a very, very interesting day.
Yeah, and definitely I think if they bring out the Warwick top, they can get this one for sure. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of question marks about how Manhattan can take this. I think that was probably the weakest game we've seen from Marist, but even then we see the individual prowess from every single member of their team. So I think it's hard for me to kind of root against them. I don't believe I'm going to be casting that game or on like a desk or anything for that game, but for my early predictions here, chat, it's going to be Marist takes it 2-0 or 3-0, whichever the format is, if it's best of 3 or best of 5. I definitely have Marist on that one, but yeah.
Yeah, I also will not be able to cover the finals of this league that we've been covering for so long, and it is unfortunate, but sometimes schedules go that way. It is sad, but we have been able to track them all the way up to now, and it has been an absolute blast alongside you, Devin, aka Worst. And I'm also punching in my ticket, 3-0 for Marist. I think if they stay solid, they stay strong, they will do MAAC proud. But that is going to be it from us here on today's coverage of the MAAC Esports Championship at the Showboat in Atlantic City. And of course, this match of League of Legends was sponsored by and brought to you by the Riot Scholastic Association of America and everyone at home watching, letting us do what we love, supporting the players, and of course, supporting the amazing production team who helped put everything together. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.